Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Getting to Know Michigan webinar for community and civic engagement. My name is Brendan. I'm a student outreach and engagement manager at the Ginsberg Center. My pronouns are he, him, his. And today's webinar is focused around the community and civic engagement opportunities at U of M through the Edward Ginsberg Center for Community Service and Learning. And so really quickly, just a quick ground rule. There is going to be opportunities to ask questions and to get to know more about the work that the Ginsberg Center is doing, or if you have specific questions around things that I am touching on or things that you are wanting to know more about, by all means, please feel free to drop any questions that you have into the Q&A feature. And then we'll have some folks being able to respond to those, and then I can also respond to some of those in live time as well. And so we've got a lot of different things to cover. And so I'm going to do a broad overview of the work and the opportunities that are available to you as a student at the Ginsberg Center. And again, by all means, please feel free to ask questions for clarification and to dig in deeper. But here we go. And so, as I mentioned, we are the Edward Ginsberg Center for Community Service and Learning. And so we are the campus's community engagement and service learning center. And we're going to get into a little bit about what that means and what that looks like. But I can imagine that you are interested personally in doing community-based work and doing service-based work, which is why that you've chosen to either attend this or watch this webinar. And so to get going here, just wanted to set up and paint a picture of who we are and where we are on campus. This is actually an exciting time for the Ginsberg Center right now. We are in the process of getting a new building. We are located on East Campus, diagonally across from East Quad, and right across the street from Ross College of Business. What you're seeing on your screen now is actually a mock-up of the new building. We're really excited about it. This is something that is going to be worked on over the next couple of years. And so we're hopefully going to be back into this space in the fall of 2025, but this is going to be the future home of our work. Right now, in the meantime, we're actually located in the basement of the Michigan League, which is on Central Campus, in a building that you will likely get familiarized with all of the other things that are going on campus, but we'll be able to connect with you there and do a lot of work from the basement of the Michigan League. So, it's helpful to think about the Ginsberg Center. As I mentioned, we do a lot of community service and learning work, and that looks like a lot of different things. But to give you an idea of some of the broader ways that we do our work, part of that is working directly with community organizations. Ginsberg Center has partnerships with nonprofit organizations, schools, government agencies, all in the name of how are we thinking about and driving social justice work forward as we build partnerships with the communities that we are hoping to work with. And so part of our work is working with community organizations. Another part of our work is supporting faculty and staff that are doing teaching and learning and research around social justice and community engagement issues and topics. And then lastly, the bigger one in the middle there that is most relevant to you all is we work very, very closely with supporting students to engage in social change work, to engage in social justice work, both on campus and off campus in our local and global communities. And so we're going to get into a little bit about what that looks like and the opportunities that are available to you. But I think a guiding philosophy that is very important to think about, and it's a way that we frame our work at the Ginsberg Center, is that what we do matters, but how we do it matters too. And so I can imagine that you are somebody that is passionate about social change work. There's a cause or a topic that you care deeply about, whether that is K-12 work or educational work or healthcare work or immigration work, whatever cause or issue that you care most about and that you want to work towards. We believe at the Ginsberg Center that that work is important, that you are wanting to do or that you already might be doing. But how you do that work matters too. How you build relationships and learn and understand the communities that you're working with in order to inform the ways that you're approaching working towards long-term sustainable change. So there are some ways at the Ginsberg Center, it comes up in the opportunities that we provide for students, that we live into this kind of mantra of what we do matters and how we matter and how we do it matters too. And those are really guided by these principles. And so as you're thinking about work in communities that you already are doing, maybe you're doing some service work, some volunteerism, maybe you're doing some activism-based work or philanthropy-based work. These are some guiding principles that we really build into everything that we do at the Ginsberg Center and all of the different ways that we think about community engagement work. And so things like connecting civic learning across context, centering our work on equity, acknowledging power, starting with community, fostering long-term partnerships, moving from individual to collective action, these different ways of embedding principles, embedding ways of thinking about and going about community engagement work in order to work towards long-term sustainable social justice work. And so these things show up in all the ways that we talk about our work. It shows up in the programs and the opportunities that we have available to you all as students. And it's ways that we try to challenge and support students and student organizations on campus in the social change and social justice work that they're doing. All of that culminates into this kind of this idea of doing good well, that you might be doing a lot of things and you might be thinking that you're doing them good, but how do we reflect on the things that we're doing and really try to challenge ourselves to do them well? And so you all across campus, whether you're connected to Ginsberg Center or not, you're going to see this type of language and this type of branding around doing good well, and this idea of rooting our community and social justice efforts in principles that are resulting in justice-oriented change. The ways that we engage in community looks a lot of different ways. As I mentioned, you might have different ways that you've already committed yourself to doing social change work. And I want to reference the fact that there are all sorts of ways that you can continue to work along these different pathways of community engagement, but there are also opportunities to explore new or different ways to engage in the communities that you might be interested in, passionate to work towards. And so you might be somebody that has committed a lot of hours and time and effort along the direct service pathway, or you might have been involved in activism and community organization efforts. You might be a social entrepreneurship person that's looking to use social entrepreneurship to address a cause or issue that you care about. Community engaged learning and research, policy and governance, and engaging in the voter process, getting involved in local politics or involved in governance boards in a community that you care about. And others of you might have raised funding or resources for a cause or an issue that you care about. And so this is an important slide, and it's an important way that we think about our work, because at the Ginsberg Center and across campus, there are so many different ways that you can think about and go about doing work in communities, and the pathways in which we engage with communities can look different based on what it is that you're hoping to do and wanting to do. So now we're getting into more of the actual opportunities, the things that you can do at the Ginsberg Center to continue your involvement in social change and social justice work, or to dip your toes in and try it for the first time. So here are some of the different things, some of the different buckets of work or opportunities. And again, I welcome any questions or things that you need clarification on to do the work. And so students and student organizations are two of the different kind of folks that we work with. There are about 1,600 student organizations on campus, which is a lot. Many of those student organizations are doing work related to community engagement and social change work. And we also work very closely with individual students in different ways. Some of those different ways include engaging, educating, supporting, and connecting. We're going to actually get into what sorts of things fall under these 4 different buckets: educating, supporting, connecting, and engaging, and what opportunities are available within them. To start, under the engaging and connecting buckets, the first one is Connect to Community. We have an online platform. If you are somebody that's simply looking for opportunities to get involved in volunteerism and direct service, Connect to Community is a platform where you can find local volunteer opportunities in the Southeast Michigan, Washtenaw County area, which is where U of M Ann Arbor is located. You can actually do things like create a profile, indicate the causes or topics that you are passionate about and the types of organizations that you want to work with, and it'll auto-populate opportunities to do service in those areas. And so, for instance, if you are an environmental person and want to work with an environmental organization doing tree planting or doing something around environmental justice, you can add those criteria to your portfolio that you create, as well as like days and times that you want to be doing service work, and it'll auto-populate opportunities for you to get involved. And so Connect to Community is a really great way to find local service opportunities and really kind of hit the ground running with direct service in the local area. We do have some literacy initiatives. And so for those of you who are interested and passionate about working with K-12 and with youth, we actually employ students to be mentors and tutors in local school systems. These are paid positions where you can engage in literacy development in the local schools. So that's another way that we provide an opportunity to get involved in more depth around community service work. We do have some multi-year fellowship and cohort programs. We've got McDonald's and Community Leadership Fellows. That is actually a paid fellowship where you get matched with a community nonprofit organization. You develop leadership skills, you serve with other fellows, and get real experience in applying what it is that you're passionate about with a local nonprofit organization. We have a first-year community engagement cohort. And so if you are somebody that is interested in meeting other like-minded first-year students and exploring social justice topics and kind of honing your skills in leadership development and civic engagement, we have a semester-long first-year community engagement cohort that takes place in the fall semester. And then we also have a student advisory board that helps steer the work of the Ginsberg Center. And so that is a collection of students ranging from first-year students all the way up through PhD programs that sit on an advisory board and actually help the Ginsberg Center as a whole make decisions about our work and help inform the types of things that we're doing as a center. And then lastly, we've got a couple of sponsored student organizations. I mentioned there's about 1,600 total student organizations. Ginsberg Center sponsors a couple of those. We have closer partnerships or relationships with them. And the three organizations that we work closest with are Detroit Partnership, which is an organization that mobilizes students to do service work in the communities of Detroit. We've got Michigan Active Citizens Alternative Spring Break, which is an organization that coordinates alternative spring break service projects where you and a group of students actually go and travel to a community in different parts of the country to do service work during the academic spring break of U of M. And so a really great way to learn about different community issues while also getting to travel with a group of U of M students and do some really important community engagement work. And then lastly, we've got Turnout, which is a voter engagement and voter registration organization that does a lot around voter access, voter registration, and voter engagement more broadly. Under the educate and support, we do a lot to support efforts that are already underway by student organizations and student leaders. And so we spend a lot of our time facilitating trainings and workshops and advising for student groups that are doing community-based work, helping to develop skills and approaches to doing that work effectively as it relates to those Ginsberg principles that we were referring to a couple slides ago. We also have a lot of different funding support. We have grant programs that help directly fund social change efforts that student organizations are working towards. And so we've got a number of different grant programs that actually supports those directly with funding. And then lastly, a big bucket of Ginsberg's work is democratic engagement work on campus. And so I mentioned that we sponsor Turn Up, Turn Out. That is a student organization that we work closely with. The Ginsberg Center is also home to the Big Ten Voting Challenge, which all 14 Big Ten schools have committed to in an effort to work towards increased voter turnout rates. We have the UMich Votes branding and efforts on campus around trying to mobilize students around voter engagement and voter access work on campus. And so the Ginsberg Center does a lot around voter engagement. So if you are somebody that is passionate about that, there's opportunities at the Ginsberg Center too to plug into voter related work on campus through Big Ten Voting Challenge, through Turn Up, Turn Out, and through the UMich Votes efforts that we'll talk about in a slide or two. Lastly, and I won't spend too much time here, we've got some opportunities for graduate and professional student opportunities, graduate consultants, where we have graduate students that are helping facilitate workshops and build curriculum. We've got our Engaged Pedagogy Initiative, which is a partnership with Rackham, the Rackham Graduate School. And then we have a program called Connect, our Community Technical Assistance Collaborative, which actually employs students to do data-related work with community nonprofit organizations. So to finish up, I just wanted to touch back on that democratic engagement that I had mentioned a slide ago, and drop this important link here. And so if you are somebody that is moving from out of state or thinking about just what voter engagement looks like for you as you move to a new home, or you're just trying to familiarize yourself with knowing that you want to be involved in the voter engagement process, the govote.umich.edu is your one-stop shop resource to answer any of those questions that you might have around things like, do I need to change my address? Where is my polling location? What things do I need to know about voting in Southeast Michigan? Govote.umich.edu is that one-stop shop resource to plug into and to answer any questions that you have. And again, if that doesn't answer the questions that you might have, or you might have additional things that you're wanting to know or get involved with, you can always come to the Ginsberg Center and reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to help and support you get the information that you need. So that is what I have for you. That is the Ginsberg Center in a nutshell. Here is our awesome team. We've got some contact information on the left. As I mentioned, we are currently located in the basement of the Michigan League. The address to where the league is at is up top. You can visit us at ginsberg.umich.edu to learn about any of these things that I had just went through. And any questions at all, you can email ginsberginfo@umich.edu, and we will have somebody from our team be able to respond relatively quickly to answer any questions that you might have. So thank you for tuning into the Getting to Know Michigan webinar for Ginsberg Center, Edward Ginsberg Center for Community Service and Learning. We hope that you have a good transition into being a student here at U of M, and look forward to connecting with you in the future. Thanks.